Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football. Hello and welcome to the Attacking Football podcast. Joining me this week, as ever, our resident Liverpool fan, Scott. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. Yeah, how are you?
Mate, this is what I've been looking forward to for a while. And without further ado, my all-time favorite TikTok creator, Dev. Dev, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. You could have told me you was a Liverpool fan before we got started. I might have waited a bit
I'm one of the
longer.
good ones. I'm one of the good ones.
Mate, it would have ruined the surprise.
Yeah. But no, thanks for having me on, man. How are you guys?
Oh, good,
Oh,
mate.
brilliant,
Listen,
yeah.
I need to fangirl a little bit, and I need to give you a little bit of a story, right? So 5 months ago, me and my partner had our first child, right? And that means that I kind of now have a bedtime for the first time in my adult life, right? We have to go to bed at the same time so the baby gets some sleep. And so I started taking my AirPods and my phone to bed and just scrolling through TikTok while the baby sleeps.
Yeah.
And I have woken her up at least twice a night just laughing at your TikToks. Because I don't know what it is. It's your delivery and your timing, but honestly, it cracks me up, and I had to get you on, man.
Oh,
So
I'm happy for you. I'm really sorry for your kid. That's
yeah.
not the best way.
Mate,
go ahead,
I'm sorry for her as well. But
Yeah.
look, let's get into it. I want to talk about your kind of career and your history, because your rise to stardom on TikTok has just been meteoric. It's gone from like 0 to 100 in no
Yeah.
time at all. But I want to talk about how you got there. Where did it start for you?
Yeah, it's a funny one really because like I love telling the story because it's the one that I remember, like that keeps me kind of grounded whenever anything gets a bit out of hand. But I was working, we were talking about our LinkedIn earlier, but like this is like halfway through my LinkedIn journey. I was at Bulk, so I worked as a recruiter. That was like my main job, and I think at uni in particular, I tried like getting involved in different bits of content here and there, whether that was like a website or a podcast. I tried like YouTube channel. I tried various different things. Nothing really stuck. Never really got the views or anything I wanted to get. And then all of a sudden, it was in, I want to say January 2022, I want to say. And or maybe just before that, I saw a video of, I remember it vividly. And I don't know if you've seen it. It was a video of a person who they were doing like a cleaning video and a rat had like ran across the stage, and it was a song like, I don't know what that song is, like A B D C
Oh
F.
yeah, that
Like, it
one.
was
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh
Yeah. It was
yeah.
A B D C. I forgot the alphabet. But like yeah, so they were doing that, and then I kind of ended it with an F G H, I saw a rat, how did you not see that? So I made a song out of it, and then that video did it. I remember doing like 500,000 within a
Wow.
week or something. So I thought, okay, that's more than anything I've ever done in my life. And this took me 10 seconds to film. And it was the first video. It was the first video. So I was like, all right, let's just see if I can do this consistently. Because that's always the big buzzword with any content creator, isn't it? So I started doing it consistently. And then before you knew it, hit 10 or 20K, kind of doing it consistently for 2 months. Then the one viral video that most people that have seen me have seen of the little girl who was making, what was she making, like chocolate milk or something, I can't remember, with her
Yeah.
mum, and she said, we love all the Browns, and then I said, well, us Browns love you, white child. And that kind of went where it did. But yeah, that video again took 10 seconds to do, but I remember posting it thinking, okay, something's gonna come from this. And I went to bed and it was on 200K. Before I went to bed, I woke up and it was on 3.5 million views, and then that was,
Wow.
and it just kind of snowballed from there. And the story I always love to tell is I remember going into work the next day, because that video actually took me from like 20K to nearly 100, and I was going to hit 100K roughly on the day that I was going into work. So, and I used to walk into work because I lived near central London, and I thought, oh God, everyone's gonna like bother me on my way to work. Like, this is how it all starts. And and it was brilliant. I walked in, like obviously no one even looked my way as I was walking into work because they hadn't seen it. And then even at work, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down. Everyone's gonna talk about it. I gotta put on my face. No one even mentioned it. No one had seen it, and I was like, yep, straight back down to earth.
Were you
Like, just 'cause-
practicing your autograph at home?
Yeah, genuinely, I was probably in that mind. I was like, oh, it's gonna happen now,
Any
but
attempts?
thankfully, like it didn't. But yeah, that's genuinely how it started. So ever since, I just kept it consistent, and that spawned off into a football channel, which has remained separate from the main, and Hobby FC, which is like a business I started a few months ago. So yeah, it's just kind of all from that lovely little wholesome video of trying to unite the nations. That's how it all kind of started.
It works, mate. But let's talk about Hobby FC then. This
Yeah.
this business you founded. Tell us about it. What is it? What do you do?
So essentially, it's my answer to bring football collectors of all sorts together in one place. So every football fan is a collector, whether they know it or not. It's either you collect experiences like through like traveling, or you collect like knowledge through social media, through different forms of media like podcasts and YouTube shows, or like TV, film, or the traditional route of tangible collectibles like shirts, which has just massively skyrocketed in the last 10 years, or cards, which is something I personally was into. So I thought Hobby FC is my answer to bring that world together and to educate as well as grow that community of collectors. So it's essentially kind of using me as a dummy to go into these worlds and learn and fail and grow, and everyone to watch me on that journey so that they can learn with me. And while I'm doing that, I'm giving people the opportunity to get involved in shirts, in cards, in travel, kind of using the social media profile I've built up to get some partnerships and relationships with people to give back to the people who brought me up in the first place. So yeah, that's kind of Hobby FC in a nutshell, really. And it started off as a website, still is hobbyfc.com. And only recently I decided to put my face to it and make some content out of it. And along with the football channel and the main channel, daily content, and just keeping that thing churning as much as I can.
I know.
Let me ask you a question.
I know Pokemon cards are quite expensive. Are football trading cards kind of like that now?
Like Pokemon, it was because Logan Paul basically just ruined everything, and he made everything so expensive. Like it's not that level. But what's funny is the shirt market. It only really took classic football shirts and my guys, the Soccer Archive, and a few other people like them, to basically just say, okay, here's some value in it now. And then all of a sudden, like TNT Sports, or BT as it was called, like made the What I Wore series, and they got ex-pros talking about what they wear, and it's like, and you got Ellis Platten from Away Days, who goes into CFS and actually makes a thing out of it. He was with Clarence Seedorf during the Euros, so it's just it's gone massive. But football cards for me is something that I personally have spotted, and through what I know and through who I've spoken to, you've seen the growth of the London Card Show, of the Nationals, and my thing is NBA, NFL, and even hockey collecting in the States, or baseball collecting in the States, is huge. They've got card shops everywhere. There's 150 across the US. We have 2 in London, or one main one in London, just purely for sports cards. And it's not gotten to where it should be, but having gone to the card shows and you see online how much these things go for, it's getting there, but we're nowhere near there yet. So I honestly think it takes, we've seen some what's the word, like some influencers get involved in it a bit now, and they're still not really, like Jack May, who has Happy Hour. He's now got his own dedicated selection of it. Tosin Adarabioyo, who I've spoken to a few times, the Chelsea player, he's got his own business as well. We're trying to focus on a partnership there, so it's getting there. It's just, I reckon it's about 20% of where it can go, though. So I said it's a great time to get involved, and I really think it is.
I might need to go rooting through my storage, see if I can find.
Yeah, genuinely do it.
Old 100 Club match attacks. Like,
don't throw it away. Don't throw it away, I'll tell you.
In anticipation of this segment, I've brought an item that I want you to value for me, right?
Okay.
So viewers of last week's podcast will have seen that I lost a bet during last year's Premier League predictions, and the result of that bet was I had to wear a Liverpool shirt on this year's predictions. So how much would a podcast worn Liverpool Trent Alexander-Arnold shirt that may or may not have burn marks on it, I can't really confirm, it might do, it might not, how much would I get for that in pence?
About 6.
6.
I think that's about as far. Yeah, that's probably about as far as you're getting. Yeah, because yeah, and being funny, the Liverpool shirts have actually gone down in value because they keep the same sponsors all the time. So like, I wouldn't bother. Genuinely wouldn't bother.
Do you know what? I tweeted earlier today, actually. I was in a charity shop over the weekend with my other half, and she spotted this little pack of Man United top trumps cards.
Nice. Yeah. I
And
think I've got the same pack.
They're like £1.50, and I just went, "Yep, I'm having that." And I brought
Yeah.
them home, and it's got Scholes in it. It's got Ronaldo when he had 5 appearances, 0
Yeah.
goals.
Is this back when we had like Forlan, Kleberson?
Yeah,
like,
they're all in
Bellion?
there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Honest
got
to
the
God,
same one.
I'm going to get them framed for a little
Yeah.
little plaque on my wall because I thought that was really cool. But is that the kind of thing that Hobby FC would be dealing in?
Yeah, massively. I think like only recently have I gotten into actually the selling side of things. So I've partnered up with Whatnot now to get football cards into the market more. But for example, like I sold this Mohamed Simakan card. It's an autographed 53 out of 99, but it's an autograph card. And on eBay, it goes for anywhere between sort of, I want to say £6 and £8. And a guy got it for £1 earlier today and got the cheapest
Nice.
shipping possible. So that's like I want to bring more people into it because it is a space, but those top trump cards are massive because I think there was a period in the early 2000s where specific clubs got the top trumps licenses and some didn't, and that's the only Man United one that I can remember that anyone really took. So those are decent to get, but there's a Chelsea one that's a bit crap, but the United one's decent. I like the United one.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely with that.
Now, we did speak earlier on a little bit about your LinkedIn, and there is a specific thing on your LinkedIn that I want to talk about, and I know Scott does too. So, you worked for 6 months for Sports Interactive,
I did.
Football Manager.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How did that happen? What did you do?
Yeah, so I was the lead talent partner at Sports Interactive. So the way it worked is, as anyone knows, it's the gaming arm behind Football Manager. So it was dream job alert. I was actually at Bulk and I was quite happy at the time when I was with them and I'd started doing content. So weirdly, the content that I was doing, I thought would be a bit of a spanner in the works because I was doing football content as well. And even though I don't swear or I don't really take the mick a lot, it's like, do they want someone recruiting for Football Manager to say how bad Harry Maguire played one week? Do you know what I mean? It's like I wasn't sure how they'd feel. So no, I went there to be their inaugural talent partner before they would do all their recruitment through an agency. And I worked with them through that. And the job itself was fine. I think it was in the gaming world more than I expected it to be. I thought there'd be more marketing or more like copy or things I was used to, but learning about like, I can't even remember the words now, but like C++ and all this kind of like coding language, I just didn't understand. And my job initially was to come in, embed a framework or introduce a framework, embed it, and have them run with it and let them just kind of come to me when they needed to. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. It ended up being quite like micromanaging from various different angles. Some people just didn't understand why I was there. Some people didn't want to understand why I was there. So it was a bit of a pushing a boulder up the hill exercise. And I think the main problem that I faced was they're owned by Sega. So every good thing that happens in the company has to run through them. And unfortunately, that includes recruitment. So as soon as I've got an offer out to someone, a candidate for a job, I have to get that offer in by Tuesday, 1 week, in order to get it signed off for Tuesday the following week. If I miss that deadline, I'm pushed back 2 weeks. And in any sort of recruitment market, I can't really wait that long, especially with certain roles. So it took a while to get used to that. And then there were instances, like if I'm honest, like it was perfect on paper. It wasn't right for me in the end. And we ended up parting ways like fairly, like there's no bad blood or anything, but I think it was going to get to the point where if I stayed, it wouldn't have been a very nice place to be. I think for me, just like mentally, it just wasn't the right place for me to join. And I think culturally, I didn't really fit in. So yeah, it didn't, annoyingly, like I would love to tell you it was like I learned so much about the game and I learned how it works and the ins and outs. They kept everything close to their chest, didn't really want to divulge a lot, and it was quite difficult, if I'm honest. So I look back at that with a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, unfortunately, and kind of wish I stayed at Bulk, which is a bit of a, I'm not sure if that's the way you wanted that.
Mate, it's, honest to God, it's so important, especially for like we see our demographics for the podcast, and we see that a lot of our viewers are young, impressionable men, right? And it's important that when they're looking at people like you who have got a relatively decent amount of success in what they're doing, that it isn't all sunshine and roses when you go into this world. And sometimes you'll go and find a job and you'll think this is the absolute pinnacle of everything that I wanted, and it just doesn't work out that way sometimes. And it's how you pick yourself up and move on from that, which is
Yeah.
really a testament to what you've done. Is you've gone from something that, like you said, left a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth, and you've made it into something that was, or something that is, so fun and so informative and so entertaining.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And
it's a good thing.
no, I appreciate it. And I think I look back at FM and I as a standalone time, it was difficult for me. But then just because it was bad for me doesn't mean it was bad for anybody else. Like someone else could have come in, different mindset, different set of skills, and would have actually loved how it was. And it suits a certain person. That just wasn't me. I'm not saying a certain demographic or a certain this. They weren't biased in any way. There was nothing weird like that. There was actually a good bunch of people. It's just the work and the way of working just didn't suit me. So I know that there were certain people there that I didn't get on with. There were certain people that I did. But I think it was good to come out of that experience and be like, you know, I'm not gonna, put it on anyone or put it on me either. It doesn't. Sometimes things just don't work out, and it doesn't mean I have to look inward. And I looked inward a lot for the first couple months after it because that's what you do. And I felt, pretty down about the whole thing. And I thought, it was my dream job. Where do I go now? And you naturally find that, but after a while it's like you just have to accept things happen that are beyond your control, and you just got to move on. And then moving on meant going to various different places, and it has done throughout my career. Really, I've been made redundant 3 different times, and you've had to pick yourself up when you fall in, and it's not easy, especially when you're living alone and you'd rather have someone there to help cushion the fall a bit. But I look back at it and I think, you know what, I wouldn't change who I am now. So if that means changing that, then I wouldn't change it at all. I'd rather stay kind of where things are.
So I've done a lot of recruitment for my job, for my real world job. I have to recruit people to work for me and to work with my clients. And one of the very first things that I say during any recruitment meeting, whether it's first stage interview or final stage interview, is it can't be a one-sided relationship. If it works for me, but it doesn't work for you, I'm not going to get the best out of you. You're not going to get the best out of yourself.
Exactly.
And conversely, the other way around, if it works for you, but I don't feel like it's working out for us as a company, it's never going to have that symbiotic relationship. So it has to be entirely a joint thing. And if one of us is not feeling it in any way, suddenly it's not the dream job that you thought it was going to be anymore from either side. So I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, and I think it's just important for people to know their own worth as well. Like I know I'm not perfect. I know where I went wrong or where I could have done better. But had I done those things, I would have lost what I think I could have brought and what makes me good. And if that means I would have essentially had to mold into exactly what they wanted, I would have probably lost a lot of me in the process. And I just think it was better for everyone to part ways. And I've had that with a few jobs, but again, no skin off my nose. I think it's good to have these experiences, I guess, even if it's one after the other. It is still good to have them.
I assume earlier when you said that they didn't really divulge into the game, which you didn't really play Football Manager that much, did you?
No, I loved it. So it was oh my God, I was obsessed. So Football Manager 2. Do you guys remember this? I don't know if you guys played it as well, but like I started in 06 and 07. Those are the first 2 I properly remember. But it was when I remember before when it used to tell you how many hours you spent on the game, and it had like a little indicator, like a status thing.
Yeah.
So I remember I must have spent over weeks on that thing. On my 2007 one, I spent weeks on that thing. Took Wolves to the Champions League final in 4 seasons. It was class. But I remember it used to say like, oh, you need to check on your underwear or turn it inside out. It makes it last longer, stuff like that. I was in. And then I still think to this day that 2008 was the best one for me. I still think that's my favorite. But the game engine for me changed when they started making it 3D and when they made key highlights. It was either a goal or something else weird. I didn't like that. I actually liked the fact that it could be just a mad save or it could be this. And I used to have Vincent and Yema in my goalkeeper, and he would save everything. So like or like Jimmy Walker for Walsall. Them 2 are my ones. But like now it's like you can kind of predict it too much. And I didn't like it. Like if I could go back on an old engine and play 08, I would do that quicker than playing the 2024 game. I'll be honest, but that's just me.
Do you have an all-time favorite Wonder Kid?
I was just going to say that.
Wonder
Can I tell you mine while you're thinking?
Yeah. Go on.
Johan Gurkov.
Yes, good. 2007.
Yeah. He was my absolute go-to on every single save. Every single save.
Gorkov was good. What about you, mate? Do you have one that you thought of there?
As a Liverpool fan, I brought Sammy Yessel to the very tops of
Oh
the
yeah,
game.
he was good. He was actually good on that game. Who was mine? I was a proper South American wonder kid person, so
Okay.
I remember signing Pablo Piatti from Estudiantes. He was class. Curlon from
Nice.
Cruzeiro was brilliant. But you know the one that stands out genuinely is Fraser Campbell. I played
Yes.
I played a low no, I played a Warsaw save in 2008 and I loaned him from United. I remember this so vividly. It's funny because he liked my reel the other day and I messaged him saying thanks for clubbing me. So I remember loaning him. He had like 17 finishing and 18 agility and like 18 composure. I was like, okay, this is cold. So he was a focal point of my Warsaw FC attack. He took me through to the Prem from League One, I think, because I had him on loan recurrently. And then finally, like he was a free agent and I signed him. He was worth 48 million and he scored in the Champions League final against Barcelona. And I just remember like
Yes.
no other player in the world is gonna make me root for them as much as Fraser Campbell did. And he never got injured. He never
No.
mouthed off in the dressing room about not getting any talented players in. He was always good about a budget. He took a crap wage. Yeah, I just loved it. Fraser, Fraser
Did he
Campbell's
go
my
to
number one.
Cardiff in real life? Is that where he ended up? He went to Cardiff.
Yeah, he
didn't
went Hull, Cardiff,
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
Sunderland.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went a few. Huddersfield, I think he went. Yeah, he went a few. But nah, Fraser's my guy. I'll always back him for that.
Shout out Fraser Campbell.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
message him after this. I did message him, but I want to message him again.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Also, it wasn't really was it your first job in gaming, or you kind of worked with hashtag? Were you on their like esports side as well?
No, so
No?
it was my first and only job in gaming. I won't ever go back to gaming, I'll be honest. It's not for me. But hashtag was different. No, hashtag was I this was during lockdown. I messaged, to be honest, I barraged Spen, Seb, Neil Smythe, who ran a lot of the media, doesn't anymore, but did then, and Alex. Like I literally just barraged all of them. I said, can I just like do some work for free? And this was when I was like earlier in my career. And then Seb and Neil said, yeah. I think Neil was the first chat I had. And then I got on a FaceTime with Seb and I was like, mate, anything you need me to do, just let me know and I'll do it. And even if that meant trekking 2 hours there and back to get to wherever it was, Tiptree, I want to say Malvern and
Yeah.
Tiptree, to get down to Essex, watch a game in the freezing cold, in the rain, and do a report or help them with the sponsorship or help them do some admin stuff. I just did everything they asked me to do. So that was that. So yeah, no esports stuff for them, just more non-league stuff, which I'm a big advocate of. But it was all non-league.
Oh, there goes
What's
my
Spencer
question. Now,
like?
hashtag Harry.
Yeah. Oh, Harry, man.
Madman.
The guy's a psycho. Is he still banned from competitive FIFA?
No, he
Because he got himself banned for a while, didn't he?
No, he just doesn't play anymore.
Right, okay. Because I remember seeing some YouTube. This is wildly off topic. I remember seeing some YouTube videos of him and Tex, and I remember thinking to myself that they're not esports players anymore. They are just they're mental cases. They are going to hospitalize themselves. Yeah, I mean, okay. Look, back on topic. What's Spencer like? Because I've always wanted to meet him because he seems like a really sound fella.
You're brilliant. Like Spencer still, there's a few that I've met in the space now, but Spencer for me is my GOAT OG YouTuber. So like
Yeah.
I was that kid who instead of watching the Sidemen that much, I would stick with Spen because he would do like some proper good football content. And I remember I got into watching his stuff through the Oviedo content when he was buying shares in the club and saving them and doing career modes and Wheel of Fortune and Zarati Kid. And I was a proper Spencer nerd. Then when he did hashtag, I found this ages ago on my old laptop. I signed up or I applied to be a footballer at hashtag. They never got back to me, but I signed up to do like to be like a centre mid or something. But yeah, they never got back to me. And I did like a proper edited video, but it didn't work. And yeah, so I spent most time with Seb. So Seb is the one that I knew closely, but well, I always remember this with Seb, and I've said this to people, and I thought it is a really normal thing to do, but I still think it's brilliant. Like I remember he was running late to a game, and so was I. The trains were screwed, but it was a pretty normal day, and he went out of his way and out of his route to kind of pick me up and drop me off, and he basically took me from Tiptree to home one day because like we finished a bit later in the game. I was like, I met you that day, and I hadn't done any work for him, and I just got a free ticket, but he proper sorted me out. So I really like Seb, and still to this day, like when I was struggling with certain roles or bouncing off of different areas. Like he's always been there to kind of like
Yeah.
give me a bit of a push. I love Seb, and Sven is just like he's one of the best football minds I've seen in the content world. Like I could listen to him all day, and I wasn't starstruck by him, but like I completely fluffed my lines when I went to speak to him. So he said like we were talking about the game, and I think Smith like Smudge was one of their main strikers at the time, and then he missed the 1-on-1, and I said stupidly, I was like, oh, maybe the manager needs to go 4-2-2, and then he looked at me and he was like, he was doing 4-2-2. I was like, why the fuck did I say that? But no, that kind of broke the ice. But he was a lovely guy. But I spent most of the time with Seb and all of them, Alex as well, just proper nice people. So like you just want good things to happen to good people. Like they're one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, couldn't recommend them enough. They're so good, and the hashtag stuff is blowing up now, which is so good to see.
It's you know what, it's good for them as well because they are. You know, I work with the Sidemen as regular viewers will already know, and I think I'd say the same thing for them. They're very wholesome. They're not involved in the whole drama of being social media content creators. A lot of the football side, and I'm talking to you, the F2. They are very much into the drama side
Yeah,
of,
the F2
of yeah, but they are. But I really think Spencer and Seb and all of those guys are
brilliant.
really grounded.
Yeah,
They are focused on creating something good for a community as opposed to for themselves, and they've done very well for themselves. Don't get me wrong. They're not scraping
no
scraping the bottom of the barrel to feed their kids, but I think they look at the community first, and is that the experience you had?
Yeah, and they're very open, and they're liberal in sharing the knowledge that they've got because they want people to succeed. I worked with them and I just thought these people want me to succeed here. And genuinely, if I was to, because I think the media you consume kind of informs how you kind of, if you're an entrepreneur, it informs how you're going to be, like what you actually define as success and what you think is good and all of that stuff. So I would always say like I based a lot of what I'm doing in terms of the innovation and trying different things and trying the entrepreneurial side off of Spen. And I look at him and I think that is the quintessential entrepreneur in that world, because he wouldn't even consider himself a YouTuber. I don't think anymore. He's a business person, and he kind of always has been. Like he did stand-up comedy, he worked for Vincent Company, he's done 2 books, and just proper sound mind and a really good mind. So I would always say to people, like, if you're going to look up to someone, not to throw much shade on them, but it's like it wouldn't so much be the Sidemen or any of these like kind of singular YouTubers or insular YouTubers. It would be on people like him who have set it up for themselves and don't have massive teams behind them, but always put their own money behind things. And that's why I'm such a fan of Sharky, who I've known quite well. He's obviously in the beta squad, but he set himself off in a different route as well. So I always have a lot of time for those guys who just continually evolve and try new things, and even if it fails, they don't let it stop them, which I love for them. And especially with their audience, I think it works better. And I think you can tell who's a Sidemen fan, who's a this fan, who's a Spencer fan. And I think like it's really good to look up to Spen and those guys, because they are just some of the best in the space, in my opinion.
I think you can tell that Spencer's like business headed, because even how he blew up was he was the FIFA player, and like the whole thing was who's behind the mask, and then once it was revealed, then his personal channel started blowing up, and that's kind of how he got going.
It's so smart, like, and just everything. Like he was one of the first guys to make his I think his YouTube logo into a badge. No one was doing that at the time. He's definitely the first to start up like his own team. Like obviously Under the Radar came later, and there's that SE Dons. They were probably the first ones, but they're Sunday League. But he's looking to actually progress them up. He wants hashtag to be an actual football league side, which is incredible. He's done documentaries. He's done like the Wembley Cup. I remember was massive. Like no one does it like Spencer. If I'm honest, I think he's one of the best.
Yeah, and he also puts quite a big emphasis on women's football with hashtag women.
Massive,
now. And that's really important.
And it's also like, again, really smart, because the barriers to entry in women's football is less than the men's football, but you have to actually care about it to be a success. Like I remember people thinking like, because they got in a higher division entry in the women's game than they did in the men's, so they play a lot of established pro clubs already when they were amateur. But you still have to care, you still have to scout, you still have to coach, you still have to do everything properly, do everything properly, and he has. And if genuinely, if anyone is looking to get into women's football, the content they put out is the best women's football content I think in the world, and I'll happily stand by that. And yeah, you're right. I definitely think it's on women's football in general is on the come up, but he's leading it from that side, and it's good. And I wouldn't expect anything less, if I'm honest.
I'm literally looking at the hashtag women's Instagram page now, and their content is
incredible.
It looks beautiful, but they were playing Watford yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
How mental is that?
Yeah, honestly, it's brilliant, isn't it?
It's so good for the women's game, and that speaks volumes for who the hashtag crew are as people. But okay, so who is it in the content space or the social media space that you kind of look up to and go, do you know what? That's the kind of content that I want to create outside of hashtags. I think you've already said that.
Yeah, definitely Spen is up there, but I mentioned Sharky. I think Sharky is someone I met, so I'm a bit biased because we met last season or last year, I don't know why I said season, but I've written 3 books all in all, and my first one was a self-published kind of football works book, and my friend Lewis, I think I posted it on Twitter, and Lewis just got in the comments and atted Sharky, and there's hundreds of people atting him like every hour, so I didn't expect him to see it. But not only did he see it, he saw it, commented back, followed me, bought it, and DM'd me as well. I was like,
wow,
sick. For someone who, this was way before any social media really ever took off. That was like during lockdown when he did that, and he followed me ever since. And then as I started building a bit of a following on the football side, he then said, "Oh, do you want to come in and be a like sit in on one of the SDS podcasts?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." But what was brilliant, it was during Ramadan when he invited me, and I don't know, maybe it's just how I was raised, but like I was raised to be very like polite and not try and like insert myself on too much. And he said they were all going to go out to break their fast together, and they were going to go to Wembley and do it. And I didn't say anything. I just kind of stayed in the corner thinking, "Oh, am I going with you? Do I stay here? What do I do?" And immediately he just says, "Yep, you're coming." Put me in the front seat while everyone else sat in the back, including Hasib, Masal, all those guys. Put me in the front seat, paid for us all to have a properly nice thing, and he let me break the fast with them. Like we had a date, we did their prayers and everything. It was really, and that showed me like that's just a good lad. And on top of that, he's done SDS off his own back. Like he pays for the studio himself. He designed it himself. He does everything. He put my book in the back, which was a really nice touch. And he's got Primo, his clothing brand, which has always been something I want to do. He's obviously got Beta Squad as one of his main sort of income sources. Obviously, they don't upload now, but I want to sit here and rattle off a few, but honestly, I'm not really into the Sidemen. I'm not into that world. I've heard things and I've experienced things kind of with them that I don't need to go into too much detail, but I just don't. I want to surround myself with people who inspire me and make me feel a certain way, and they're not them. So I go towards more the Sharky and the Spen route for that reason. And one I did meet who was actually just a nice lad, I was in a video of his, was Nico Amalana. So yeah, I was in a video where he took 100 clowns to try and storm Parliament, and we all dressed as clowns. And you'll see it if you watch the video. It's on the NDL channel. It's class. But like, there's a bit at the beginning where he says, I've brought people in who will take this job more serious, and it pans out. You see the clowns. There's one in the back waving a box. That's me. So I was like, I have to get my thing in here somewhere. But he was lovely as well. Like he's just a nice guy. I think what's annoying is that you don't know who these people are behind the scenes, and it's only until you actually get to sit down with them on a proper level where you get to know. So Nico, I got to speak to him. I was still dressed as a clown, but he was fully in his element and talking and being himself. Same with Sharky, same with Spen. But I also got to do that with some of the other more mainstream guys, and I didn't like what I saw or heard. So I have now seen what I want to be, and it's more towards those guys. So if I have to pick 3, it's got to be them for innovation, for just inspiring me, and also for how they act as people.
This is why I like to ask questions like this, because you only really get an image of somebody when they're on the screen and they're giving you the side of themselves that they want you to see, right? As opposed to the bits that they don't, and the bits that they don't, for good or for bad, you don't see. And when we have people like you on the podcast and we can kind of get into the real nitty gritty, we get a bit of the gossip. And if you want us to cut it out, then we will. But I like it, and it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I've got no qualms against it. I mean, I won't go into too much detail, but like I had a particularly bad experience with you'll know based on my LinkedIn, kind of I was in a particular role where I was kind of directly in that content world. I had a very bad experience with them and sort of the people, some, not all of them, like there was some people who worked there that were fine. But how they treated me, how I know they've treated other people, and how I know they treated someone very close to me, I will never look at them in the same way, and I kind of wish them nothing but the worst. But for once of not making this like entirely negative, like I say, there are certain people who I look up to based on who you are, and I can only know that based on more I see. I now have learned not to take things at face value. And if anyone's watching this and you're young and you are impressionable, whether you know it or not, especially when you are younger, be careful with who you look up to, especially if you don't know anything about them. And you have to probably just internalize that a bit more, figure out what inspires you and go towards that. That's where you're going to find the best route, in my opinion. That's where I found it. And I think that's where most people will.
I think it's a good message. It's a cautionary tale, isn't it? On be careful who your heroes are.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Mine's Ruud van Nistelrooy. I'm happy for him to be my hero.
He was in my top trumps pack as well.
Yeah. 210 appearances, 151 goals. Yeah, I'll keep it.
Do you know what? I might have to go and get it just so I can check those stats.
I'm pretty sure it is. I'm almost certain it is. I've played that game so many times.
Scott, do talent acquisition. I need to go and find that. I'll be back.
Yeah, so you talked earlier about hashtag how like they're scouting with the women's team. You did a bit of scouting yourself, didn't you?
I did, yeah. God, you guys went far back. So yeah, I did a couple of things. I was a scout part-time at uni for a agency called NI Sports. Really lovely guy, Martin Hunter. He's still with them now. He was at Colossal and then he started his own thing. Just signed up on Indeed and then got through. But it was more he would take, because we could go under his management, we were able to get to games and do kind of whatever we wanted to do. And I remember it's a fun little anecdote, but I was about, I want to say 24 hours, probably even less, 18 hours maybe, from signing Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and it never happened. And I was devastated. So it was I remember it clear as day. Crystal Palace versus QPR. He was in the under 23s. He was playing right wing, so he wasn't even a right back at the time. And I remember, I must think I'm Sir Bobby Robson or something, but I remember writing on my scouting thing, he should be a right back. He can tackle like anything. He's got legs like a Kimbo. He's just fantastic. He needs to be like an out and out right back. And then I spoke to someone that was there with him. I think it was his cousin or someone like that. Then got introduced to his family, and I spoke to them very, very briefly. And I said, very interested in speaking to you more about Aaron and all this. And they were keen. And then we set aside a time to talk, and they were happy to kind of move forward because I think they knew Martin and all these other things, whatever. But it had progressed away from me, and it was going to go to them. But because I brought him to the table, Tasty Commission would have come my way. And from what I know, the conversation got to them saying, "Oh yeah, we'll have a chat like in a couple of days." But the manager, I think it was Roy Hodgson, says Aaron might get a game this week because Martin Kelly, the right back, was injured. And I was like, please, for the love of God, I hope he starts, like, for his own mental health and development. But like, I hope he doesn't start. And he went and started, got a clean sheet, smashed it. Or he did really well in his game individually, played the full 90, never got out the club, never got out the side again. United signed him for 49.5 million a year and a half later. And that's all she wrote. Got nothing from that. And then I stopped being a scout pretty much soon after that.
This is the quintessential one that got away story, isn't it?
It was so sad. And when I've done videos, I've always backed Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well. I've never gone against him for that, but like, yeah, that hurts because I did work at an agency called Wasserman, who they represented Ross Barkley, Phil Neville, Virgil van Dijk, but I was there the day that Virgil van Dijk signed for Liverpool, and I knew the amount of money. I can't legally actually say how much it was. I'm actually not allowed to, but I know the amount of money that was given to the agent, and I just thought that could have been me with Aaron. It would have been less, but it could have been That would have been nice, wouldn't it? I would be out in Spain right now and just sipping on a pina colada and doing what I want to do. But horses for courses. I guess it wasn't meant for me.
I've got another one that you've missed out on now.
What did I miss out on? Did I get it wrong?
Yeah.
110.
On
No,
his
but
card,
that's
110,
That's
84
early.
goals. It is early.
It is early. It is early.
It
The
is
actual
early.
stat is about like 210, 150, I think. 153, 210, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, see, this is where our podcast normally has our producer Alfie on it, but he's away today and he's our fact checker. So I might have to Google that myself. But we're talking about scouting. What were you looking for when you were in that role? What were you looking at a player for?
So I was always more about temperament or more about their courage, just kind of sort of the more intangibles of football. So I wasn't really concerned with how many ball progressions, how many tackles, or any of this. It was like, are they taking on their player 1v1? Are they relieving the duties from a player next to them? Are they consoling someone when they're coming up from a tackle? Are they crunching in? Are they arrogant? Are they, all these different things. So I always love looking at centre mids. That's still my favorite ever. My favorite ever position to look at. And yeah, for me, I think it was just always about having cultured and class and just being like quite relaxed in the middle of the park. So I remember looking at Ove Ejaria. I looked at a few of the Liverpool players. I can't remember from that era now, but there was one for Arsenal. I'm forgetting. Oh, Ben Sheaf. I remember Ben Sheaf was coming through as a 16, 17-year-old. Said he was good. I said he was championship ready, and I guess I was right. But yeah, so those kind of things really. I like the intangible stuff. I hate getting into details about like he had this many goals, this many assists, because there's always context. I'd rather like look at someone and say little things like, are they smiling? Are they engaging with fans after games? Are they like consoling people? Are they boosting people? Are they putting people down? I'd rather look at that. I'm much more interested in the person than the player. So that's always been me. But like I say, I haven't scouted for like 5 years. So what do I know?
Was there ever a player that you scouted, but then like I assume when you scouted someone, you'd have to go talk to someone higher up? Was there ever a player where you said he's gonna be great, and then they said no, and then he actually turned out to be great?
Oh, good question. It's a really
Name and
good
shame,
question.
Dev. Name and shame.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who it was now. You know what? No. At that time, like everyone actually kind of backed it. The one that annoyed me, I remember working at Wasserman and it was an internship and it was fine, but I kind of wish they gave me credit. But they had me do like a squad profile on Fleetwood Town. And they said, look at the transfer market, look at Scout and all these different things. Suggest players to go to Fleetwood, like, and we'll look at it and we'll move forward. I suggested about 10 different players, some of which were just South American imports. I don't know why I looked at them because they were in League One. But I remember looking at Tumani Diaguraga, like the centre mid, the gang league centre mid. And I remember thinking, I said he's free, go get him. He's versatile, he's this, he's that, good in the air, all that kind of stuff. And they just didn't listen. The scouts never listened to me, and I was really annoyed. And then I checked Sky Sports 2 days later. Fleetwood Town signed Tumani Diaguraga on a 3-year deal. I was like, all right, sick. So I know what I'm doing, but they're just not giving me the credit.
Where's my commission?
Yeah, that was a proper kick in the teeth, I was only like 20, but I was like, yeah, give me some credit. Like, yeah, that was annoying. But no, I can't say I have actually. I can't think of anyone that I thought. It's more the players that I thought would blow up that hadn't. I'm closer to them than the other way around, I'll be honest.
Okay, well, look, you are famously a Manchester United fan.
Yes. Good
Yeah,
lad.
Yeah.
There we go. Liverpool shirt this week.
No Liverpool. It's in the bin next to my desk where it belongs. If you were scouting a midfielder, which is, let's face it, the position that we really need to strengthening most, where are you looking in the market for a midfielder? What kind of profile are you looking at? Not necessarily a name, but you must have been very excited watching Cobby come through, considering the attributes you listed earlier.
Oh yeah. But I do like the I like the look of Toby Collier. I think like he's a nice profile. I can't think of many things that Scott McTominay wasn't doing at his age, and that's how you have to look at it, because Scott McTominay is clear of him now, obviously physically and like in maturity sense. But back then they were very similar, maybe fewer goals related, but Collier would put himself about as proper box to box, proper energetic. So I actually really like him, but I I actually have three names that I think encapsulate it well, but I would, if not even if money was no object, but if we were able to shift McTominay on for like a fair fee, like 30 odd million, which I think is more than fair. Maybe Ericsson for a couple of mil, or maybe Casemiro, if we can get him to Saudi for like 50, 60, that'd be ideal. But if we could ship all of them, I would happily go for Ugarte as number one. That's easily the number one profile, just a dog in midfield. Just don't bother looking that way. Just get the ball, shift it to Bruno, and let him do what he just do that. He reminds me of Herrera, minus the going forward bit, just someone who would die for the club, and that's what you need. And he reminds me of Martinez as well, so I think they'd get on well. Definitely Ugarte. Yeah. Definitely Ugarte. Definitely Sander Berge. I don't know where this narrative has come out that he's not good enough because they got relegated. Like Eric Cantona, Andy Robertson didn't exist. I don't understand why we have to look at where you come from as a benchmark of where you were. Like Bergkamp didn't struggle at Inter, which is why he went to Arsenal. Or like there's thousands of examples, but I think Berge could be fantastic for us. Like cultured, like tall, imposing, but he can shift about a bit as well, and I like him. And there's a guy called Andre Trindade who plays for Fluminense. I think it's like 22, 23.
Yes.
He's the new Casemiro regen for me, so I'll just get him in for like 20 odd million euros. And we did look at Richard Rios, who I did like the look of at the Copa America, but if I would prioritize Andre, like those three midfielders, I think sort us out for 10 years, and that's what you have to do.
We're definitely not getting one of them because Sander Berge has a here we go to Fulham today.
Really?
Yeah, literally 5 minutes before we started recording.
5 minutes before we started recording, Fabrizio dropped a here we go for Sander Berge to Fulham for £25 million.
That's a 25. Is he worth 20?
Yeah, I think we would have paid 25 million for him. But what that does do is end Fulham's interest in Scott McTominay.
It does.
It's kind of like a double blow to Man United there.
It is, yeah. We've operated quite well in this window, but that is two very large kicks in the collective teeth for us.
That's very annoying.
It is what it is. But I understand where you're going with the profile and what kind of player that you're looking for. Okay, well, I want to do before I do. Scott, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't know.
Okay, I wanted to move on to some fan questions. Earlier on today, we and you, Dev, tweeted out asking for some questions for the podcast. So we're going to kick off with Joe James Jepson. He's got a 3-part question for you because he's greedy. Nice. What was your first piece of memorabilia that you can remember buying? What was the inspiration behind Hobby FC, which I think you kind of already answered? And is there a piece of memorabilia that means more to you than most, and why?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Someone's done their homework.
The first bit of memorabilia I've bought, my God. I want to say technically it was a Yu-Gi-Oh card. That's kind of how it started. it was a Blue Eyes White Dragon PSA 9. That was actually the first one. Football wise, it was so favorite player ever is Ruud van Nistelrooy. That's kind of well documented, but I bought a PSA 9 World Cup 2006 foil card from Ruud van Nistelrooy, and I remember it imported from Germany, and it took ages to come here. But like that's probably one of my favorite cards in my collection. But that was the very first one, and my best one in my collection is again it's a Ruud van Nistelrooy. It's a PSA 10, so gem mint, Futera Gold from 2004. So Futera is like a bit of a still big but smaller than Panini and Topps, but they make like these relic interesting kind of special cards every year, and like their cards are just so expensive. So to get a Ruud for a PSA 10 for pretty cheap, I got it for like 30 quid, and it's worth about 90 now. That's probably my best one, I'd say.
Love that. For those of you who don't know, can you explain what PSA 9, PSA 10 means?
Yeah, I don't even know if PSA can explain it nowadays, but like PSA, Professional Sports Authenticator, I think that's what they stand for, but they authenticate all forms of memorabilia now. So they don't just do cards, but they can do ticket stubs, they can do like all different various realms of things. But essentially they will look at a card, we'll look at cards right now, but they'll look at the authenticity behind it, how it's been printed, how it's been produced, how it's been preserved, and give it a scoring from 1 to 10. 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. So if you get a PSA 10, it's essentially like saying the card I'm holding is perfect. And there aren't any reasons to declare it not perfect. But because of the kind of drop off in the stature of having a PSA 10 even versus a PSA 9, the price difference is stupid between the two. The same card as a PSA 10 can be hundreds, thousands of pounds, and maximum you'll get $1,000 out of the PSA 9. It's all dependent on rarity and stuff, but that's what PSA is there for, to authenticate and to give a numerical value behind the condition of a certain object. So that's what they're there for, and they're very expensive and very controversial at times, but they're still the best. So until we get a competitor, they're going to be there for it forever, I think.
Let's see. So Chris Sleater says, what would be the best bit of advice for young people trying to make a name for themselves, especially with football content?
Oh, with football. So football is not a nice place to be making content. I have to be honest. Especially being a brown kid on the internet, it's not a nice place to be. You are inevitably going to get the ignorant people that will come at you for things you can't control, and you have to develop a thick skin towards it, because the people who do it normally they aren't people that should matter, and they, even what they say could be the worst thing, but they don't matter at all. I've had people say some really horrendous things, especially when you take certain stances. Like, I think the best advice is to kind of decide what creator you are. Like, are you the fun one that just wants to have a joke all the time? Are you the analytical one? Like, you decide which one you are. You can have various different facets to your personality, but decide who you are. I've always wanted to be the light-hearted, informative, engaging football person, and not go too far into detail, or not take the mick or swear or put anyone down. Just keep it lighthearted and fun. But occasionally there's going to come times when you have to take a stand, like I did with Mason Greenwood when everything came out about him. And I think a lot of people did it, and I think a lot of good people took the right stance, that just because you can kick a football, it doesn't matter. It's how you are as a person. And you can have as many hat tricks as you can in one game, for all I care. What you've done is not a mistake. It shows who you are, and you should never play football again. That's always been my view. And I did a video, I remember doing the first one. It was like a 2-minute long video, which is long for TikTok. But I did that explaining where I was, and the backlash I got from it was horrible. Death threats, people saying they're gonna do what Mason did to his girlfriend, to my mom or my family. It was just getting, it was toxic. It was really horrible. And then I remember coming out of it and just thinking, geez, like, people like that exist. Well, people like Mason exist, for example, but people like that who support him exist. And I just thought, well, this is, you're in your bubble all the time. You don't think they're actually out there, but they are, and they're in their fat millions, which is horrible. But I remember I was on holiday, actually. I went to holiday in Spain with my girlfriend. I remember we were having some really good time. I was having such a good vibe, and I think it came out that we were selling him to Marseille, and I just thought, you know what, a quick 15-second video just to rattle people is exactly the kind of tonic I need. So I did it, and it all came back again. Everyone was horrible. But then I remember all that was happening on the phone, and no one would dare say these things to me in public, because you're not going to defend him in public. That's what you're just not. And it's the same with any other contentious points, really. No one's actually going to say this to your face. Very rarely will that happen. But I remember that happened, and we were just about to go to a beach, sipping pina coladas right in the sea. And I remember thinking, right, if I put this phone there, it doesn't exist anymore. That problem's not a thing anymore. And I was just in the moment with my girlfriend on the beach in Spain, and I was like, mentally, I have to be here. I have to get off the phone now. So you have to have a thick skin, but also be able to figure out who you are as a creator, not let people detract you from who you are as a creator. Don't get sucked into it, and be in the present for where you are. And remember that your phone and everything on it, it's superficial and it's fake. So you don't have to please it. Like, live your life and try not to get sucked in.
So I many years ago, and I'm not sure how old you are, Dev, but I'm certainly, I think, in the top 1 oldest people in attacking football. Do you remember the Paris attacks? And this is completely outside of football.
The which one?
The Paris attacks. The attack on the nightclub. So I wrote a Facebook status about those Paris attacks, and it went mega viral. And I was not a content creator at the time. I was just a bloke working in a normal job. And I think it ended up with something like 700,000 shares around Facebook and Twitter and something like that. It was quite a lot of exposure, and I look like this, right? I'm just a white bearded bloke who doesn't really have any distinguishing features. I am just me. And it got to the point where the backlash was so bad, and I was defending the Muslim population from it was the argument of, okay, so they did that as individuals, not as a collective.
Yes. Yeah.
And I ended up having to have police welfare visits to my home every single day for 2 months. But do you know who didn't give me a load of crap and a load of abuse? The Muslim community.
Yeah.
I was getting messages saying, look, I'm a taxi driver, I'm local, if you need help getting to and from work, let me know, I'll come and get you. And that for me is the antithesis of social media. It's everything that you want it to be in one way, and it's everything you don't want it to be in another. And you're right, you just need to take your phone away sometimes and just put it to one side and go, look, that's not who I am. This is who I want to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly. And
I can empathize that completely.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone has something to say. I mean, I do. That's the reason I do it. And I'm not, it doesn't mean that I'm not trying to say if you put yourself out there, you're sort of asking for it. You're definitely not. You're never asking for anything bad to happen to you unless you explicitly say certain things. Like you're never asking for certain things to happen to you. And it is, I'm not asking as a brown man to be called certain words because I'm brown. I would happily have a debate with someone based off what I've said. I will happily debate them till the cows come home. But then I remember you might have felt this as well. I started getting sucked into people who were just insulting me, and I didn't actually have to talk to them, but I felt like I had to say something back because they got a few likes, or I looked weak if I didn't, or no one cares. It's going to blow over in the next few hours, really, or in the next couple of weeks, depending on how big it is. And no one's going to care at the end of the day. And you just have to remember who you are and have a good network around you, which I do. And I think it does help that I was older getting into content as well. So this didn't happen when I was 19, 20, it happened 25, 26. So I think that does help as well. I've got a great family, great network, but yeah, just be thick-skinned is the overall answer to that question. Just be thick-skinned.
We love a deviation from a question on the Attacking Football podcast. Okay. So far in your career, what has been your favorite moment and why? And that's from Alfie Seven Smith.
My favorite moment and why?
I needed to do a positive one, Dev.
My favorite moment. I loved meeting Sharky. I don't know if that is included in this, but being able to meet him and see him a bit more for what he was, and for him to kind of live up to what I thought he was, it was nice. But he actually inspired me with some of the stuff he was doing, so I came out of that pretty rejuvenated. But the best moment, oh, I know the answer to this. I was talking about this the other day with my girlfriend, actually. It was last season, Carabao Cup. We beat Crystal Palace 3-0. We didn't beat anyone else in that cup. We lost to Newcastle 3-0 the next round, I think. But I got 2 free tickets to go to the game at Old Trafford through Carabao. And I just thought I'm going to take the extra ticket with me and get a follower to come with me, like a United fan. And this kid reached out to me. I can't remember his name, and that really annoys me that I can't remember his name. A 17-year-old kid who'd been in foster care and had a pretty tough go of things, and he hadn't been to Old Trafford before, or if he had, he was a kid and doesn't remember it. And I invited him to the game. I spoke to his foster dad, made sure everything was okay, and it was all fine. He comes to the game, and then we actually hit it off really well. He was a really nice kid, and we were probably talking football, and he loved it, and he was into content as well. So he was asking me questions, and I just fired away. I bought him food afterwards, and we actually had a really good day. And to top it all off, we'd won the game. I remember Amrabat played, and I loved him for whatever reason. So I made videos about him, and I did a few of them went had a couple million views, and it did really well. But I remember at the end of the game, I sat there, and he said this to me actually, your following on the football side alone is more than all of the people in the stadium. And I remember sitting there thinking, geez, yeah, that's pretty sick to think of. And then I was literally just soaking it all in and just thinking, what an amazing day. It's times like this, I got invited by Carabao. I didn't have to pay for the ticket. I was having the best day. We won. The vibes were just there. And then as soon as I'm just about to walk down, so I hear a voice saying, "Are you Dev?" I was like, "Yeah." And then this lady just comes up to me like, "Oh, I love your videos. Could I get a picture with you?" And as I'm taking a picture with her, and just kind of taking it all in, like what's happening, why are people taking pictures with me? Then a whole line formed of about 6 or 7 people wanting and I thought that's the best day I've ever had as a content creator. There was this kid though who was like, he was like 7. He had no clue who I was, but he just wanted a picture. I was like, yeah, come here, lad. And I just took selfies with a bunch of United fans and got like the best vibes walking back to my hotel as well. So best day ever as a creator. Yeah. I'm glad I remember that. That's clear, by far and away the best moment I've ever had.
Does that make you think like that this is all worth it? Everything I do, everything I've done, this is what makes it worth it.
I got back to my hotel and cried for about 5 minutes because it was more the I still to this day I don't get weirded out by it, but I get kind of taken aback if ever anyone recognizes me or says something really nice, because I keep things really simple in what I'm doing. I'm just putting stuff out and hoping whatever happens, but I don't do it to elicit a certain reaction. I do it to kind of make people laugh, and that's it. So maybe that's enough in itself, but to have people say some of the things they've said and to kind of back me in certain areas. And when I did, some of the more contentious issues, there were people that were there to like fight my corner, and I'd never met them before, but purely off of what I'd done, they were happy to. And, I have these aspirations of one day I want to meet Ruud van Nistelrooy. One day I want to meet Sir Alex Ferguson and just sit down with them. And I don't want any content out of it. I just want to meet them and have it as my memory. And to think that all of this is slowly, it could lead to that, or it is building towards something, and you put so much effort into something and people actually like it, there's no better feeling. So genuinely, at the end of that day, I cried for about 5-10 minutes. It was a good little cry as well. Let it all out. And since then, it's just kind of gone. I just continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm really lucky because the people around me just keep telling me to keep going. Even today, I was having a bit of a bad day, just no reason, just didn't really feel like it. And then I've got my girlfriend there saying, "No, you can do it." And you kind of need those people around to get you going again. And honestly, I'm just lucky every day that I have that. And I've developed a nice corner of the internet where I think everyone just feels nice. It's not like the kind of typical Gen Z audience. It's actually just nice, usually older women and men that just like saying nice things. So no, I'm very, very lucky, and I count my blessings every day, if I'm honest.
So the next question we have is, what's next for you?
Oh, well, I mentioned there I want to meet Ruud and Sir Alex.
That's from that question's from Scott and I.
Well, what is next? I mean, the easy answer and the kind of business answer to say I want to expand Hobby FC to become the leading voice for the football collectors community, and I think I can do that. There is a bit of a gap, and I do think if I do it right, I can be the right voice it needs to just keep it inclusive and do it properly. And from a business point, I would love to release another book, maybe more on the fictional side, and I would love to be in more of the TV and the kind of wider media world. So that's what's next, I guess, in terms of that sense. But I'm also just more concerned now with, I'll be honest, in terms of work-wise, like the kind of work I do outside to kind of keep paying my bills, it's been tough. Like the last few months, I've been in a pretty depressive state at times of like, really not wanting to get out of bed or do anything, and being made redundant, being told you're not good enough in various ways is difficult to come from. So really, if you'd asked me a few months ago, I would have said all of the business stuff and all of the like the metrics and the numbers. I just want to be happy. Like whatever I'm doing, I just want to actually. It's a cliche answer. I feel cringe saying it, but like it is just. I just want to be happy doing what I'm doing and financially able to live a life that I want to live. I don't want to jet set everywhere. It'd be nice, obviously, but I don't want to do all that. I just want to live freely, give my parents and my family experiences that we never would have had, and just enjoy. That's all I want. So next for me is just doing things that get me on the road to actually enjoying things for once.
Well, mate, you've got a couple of fans here in Scott and I, and Attacking Football loves you to death. And when I told the group chat you were coming on, it was like open mouth, oh my God, you got Dev. So, mate, we wish you every success in everything you do. We'll be following you every step of the way, mate.
Thank you very much, mate.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Dev, thank you for coming on and sharing with us your kind of career history. It almost felt like a bit of a LinkedIn interview at times, but we got through it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
We'd love to have you on again if you're willing. Scott, thank you very much as always. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment below for Dev to have a look at when he's feeling sad, make him feel happy. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. See you guys.